everyone, Andrew here, and welcome to today's video where I thought it'd be fun to talk about something that's been on my mind quite a bit lately, and that is, why does Nintendo seem to not like video game compilations anymore? Nintendo was one of the ones who back in the day really pioneered the whole thing, especially with one of the most famous and well-known and all-around awesome compilations being Super Mario All-Stars for the Super Nintendo, where you get those 4 8-bit Super Mario Bros. Games spruced up with 16-bit graphics, all new music, on one convenient Super Nintendo cart, and it's just a fantastic way to play those classic games. And why do we not get more of that from Nintendo these days? Think about the last time Nintendo really took, a series, bundled all the games from that series together and put them in one convenient package, maybe even with, updated HD graphics, and allowed everyone to play it. It was a massive thing on other consoles back in the day, like Jak and Daxter, God of War, all sorts of series lately have been getting these modern console treatments from companies who make them. Of course, even not that generation, but the next generation, you get things like the Crash Bandicoot and Spyro bundles, just really fantastic games bundled together in HD with all new graphics, sometimes with new features and new levels. It's just great, and yet I think the last time Nintendo really released a bundle was with NES Remix Pack on the Wii U, taking NES Remix 1 and 2 and putting them on one Wii U disc. If you don't want to include that, then I think before that, the NES Remix Pack was 2014. 2012, we saw the Kirby collection on the Wii, and there was the New Super Mario Bros. U package on the Switch, which included New Super Mario Bros. U and New Super Luigi U, but New Super Luigi U doesn't even feel like a different game. It feels like it should have just literally been DLC, but they sold it as a separate game for whatever reason. Like, it doesn't even have a new overworld map. I feel like New Super Mario, or not new, but rather Super Mario Bros. 2J is more of a sequel than, New Super Luigi U was. Now imagine if instead of that small little bundle, they took New Super Mario Bros. From the Nintendo DS, New Super Mario Bros. Wii, New Super Mario Bros. 2 from the 3DS, and New Super Mario Bros. U, bumped up those previous 3 games into HD along with New Super Mario Bros. U, and released it as a bundle called New Super Mario All-Stars. Would that have not been absolutely mind-blowing? Like, that's the awesome potential that Nintendo has for creating some really cool bundles, and yet they don't do it, which I think is so unfortunate. But I digress about that. That's just kind of something that's been on my mind, especially it really hit home lately when I picked up the Mega Man Zero ZX collection. Absolutely fantastic. It's only like $30 US, 40 Canadian dollars for 6 games. Even though they haven't been upgraded to HD, you can, make them full screen, and it just looks nice to play them on the Switch, or, I think it's on some other consoles as well. I highly recommend picking that up. And yet, Nintendo just doesn't seem to want to do that sort of thing with any of their games. It's funny because I feel like Nintendo has so many series where it would make sense to do it. Think about like a Pikmin collection, that would be so cool. I mean, even back in the day, they had like a Mother collection where they put Mother 1 and Mother 2 on a Game Boy card. Imagine if they released like a Mother 1, 2, 3 collection. That would be so neat. What if Nintendo, there's been a lot of talk lately about, the only massive Wii U game these days that really hasn't been ported to the Switch is Super Mario 3D World. And what if instead of just porting it outright, they put it into a collection where you get Super Mario 3D Land and Super Mario 3D World on one Switch cartridge? Would that not be so cool? I wish what they would have done was put Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze and Donkey Kong Country Returns into a bundle and release that on the Switch instead of just porting this over with new funky mode. It just seems like Nintendo is really lazy these days in terms of, just porting things over to the Switch. It was pretty much just, if it was on the Wii U, no one bought the Wii U, so just slap it onto the Switch, and I can understand why they did that. But it feels like there's so much room, so much more room for there to be so much better, in the game. Take, for example, the Link's Awakening, Legend of Zelda, the remake that just came out on the Nintendo Switch, and it's very okay. People know I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I do know that a lot of people did like it though. What if instead they took this and they also added the Legend of Zelda Oracle of Ages and Seasons to it as well, because that game reuses so many of the assets from Link's Awakening anyway. Of course there would need to be some new music tracks, some new enemies and such, but just so much of the game is so similar that it seems like the amount of effort compared to what it took to make this anyway would have been somewhat minimal to add those other 2 games to it as well, and that would have been a really cool collection. Instead of charging, very full Nintendo price for this, when all it has is one, ancient game on it these days, with some new graphics and some new music and some new items just kind of scattered around the overworld, when you can have the Crash Bandicoot and Spyro collections, which are actually less than the Nintendo price you have to pay for a Switch game, and you get, 3 games, which probably took just as much, work to put in there as, this. So it's just kind of really weird seeing that Nintendo's ports and such. I mean, you even get it with, for example, I have games scattered all over the place here, in case you couldn't tell. But there is also, for example, the Legend of Zelda games. Like on the Wii U, we saw a completely separate HD release for Wind Waker and for Twilight Princess. Well, why not make a Zelda collection like we even had on the GameCube, where you get a whole bunch of games in one? We got, Zelda 1, Zelda 2, Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask. Why not release an HD collection of, even if you don't want to put 4 games on it, just maybe Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask? But instead, they would rather, sell them separately because they know that people will buy it. But I don't think it's wrong to have higher expectations of Nintendo. They'll want them to put in that little bit extra effort instead of just taking games from years ago and selling them just as one, when companies now have, been putting multiple games on one collection, sprucing them up to HD, and selling them for usually less than the price of what you would pay for a full-priced Nintendo game. And especially, Nintendo, it's funny, because after the release of Animal Crossing, it's like, what is Nintendo even up to these days? If they're going to do a thing, and what I kind of fear is that this Christmas, we're not going to see really any new Mario games. Their Mario game is going to just be a port of New Super Mario World 3D, Super Mario 3D. I just combined a whole bunch of different names into one there. Super Mario 3D World, port it to the Switch, and be like, there we go, that's it. And I think that would be so disappointing if they at least put this in there and combine them together, because I think what really would be interesting for me is playing this on an HD screen, and then I would probably play through this too for it. But if they just release this on the Switch, there's not really going to be much incentive to buy it, I think. And again, I said the same thing with Donkey Kong. This Nintendo has more series than it seems like any other company that are so totally, plausible for adding into collections, and yet they don't do it, likely because, well, at least in the past it seemed like because they would rather sell those games individually on like the Virtual Console, but now without a Virtual Console. And I guess another thing is also, you get like these right here, but this isn't really like a game, compilation. It's just a whole, 30 random NES games kind of put into one. But what I'm kind of focusing more on is taking, all the games from one series and putting them into a really nice bundle. And I have to say that so many other companies have been doing such a great job of this. We've had Sonic collections, Mega Man collections, Jak and Daxter collections. Like I said, I listed all those different collections off. It would be so cool to see Nintendo doing that with their IPs as well. And I'm curious what all of you think out there. What collections would you like to see? Do you think that Nintendo has kind of dropped the ball, considering, they used to release such good collections, even back to the NES days? You had Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. released as separate NES games, and then eventually they combined them together and released it as Donkey Kong Classics. Like, that was the thing to do back then, to get some extra sales out of a game that had already been out for a little while. But it definitely seems like Nintendo these days is kind of shying away from that, and would rather just, down the road, release games just standalone, updated in HD. Well, I think it would be so cool to see actually collections for them. Okay, so I think that's probably my piece on that subject. I got pretty excited talking about video game collections. That's just because they used to be so amazing. Like, even like, Mario Duck Hunt, the original collection that most people probably think about. It's just mind-blowing. So if I had to choose collections that I would love to see these days, probably one of the top in the list would be like a Mario Party collection. Can you imagine Mario Party 1, 2, 3 collection HD with online capabilities? Like, that would probably be like the most incredible release I could imagine right now. Probably like, unless it's Star Tropics 3, that's probably like the next thing I could imagine. But then they even have things like, F-Zero collection. Like, there's just so many good collections that Nintendo can make. Just imagining them kind of blows my mind. But I think at this point, I'm not excited for standalone remakes anymore. Ever since Zelda kind of let me down, like, I always used to think, oh yeah, well, I love Mario Sunshine, so Mario Sunshine would be an incredible HD remake to see. But then I think about it, it's like, there's nothing wrong with Mario Sunshine on the GameCube. There's even ways to play your GameCube games in HD these days. So does Nintendo really need to make a Mario Sunshine HD remake? Now, if Nintendo decided we're going to make a classic 3D Mario platformer collection, and they take like Mario 64, Mario Sunshine, Mario Galaxy 1, Mario Galaxy 2, put them in HD, and release that in an epic collection. That would be really cool. Even if they don't, it doesn't have to be 3-4 games, even if it's just 2. Mario 64 and Mario Sunshine on one collection, Mario Galaxy 1 and Mario Galaxy 2 on one HD collection. Like, I think even that's cool, but I think I'm just kind of over the individual HD remake and charging, the full Nintendo price for a 20-year-old game at this point. So, what are all of your thoughts on that? What would you like to see remade? What collections would you like to see? What do you think Nintendo's plans for the rest of the year are? Because again, after Animal Crossing, there's some other cool games coming out like SpongeBob Rehydrated, but I mean, nothing, I don't believe, Nintendo first party anymore. There was also recently like the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon remake, which again, just like, like a standalone game. So opinions all around on collections and remakes. I'd love to hear yours. I think I probably got mine across pretty well. But with that said, thanks for watching this. I hope you enjoyed that ramble. I hope to see you next time when we talk about something different. So thanks and see you later. Thank you so much once again for taking the time to check out my content. If you enjoyed, please consider leaving a like and subscribing, as it helps my channel grow. And I also have a Patreon page where everything that I receive goes towards making the quality of my work even better. So thanks again, and hope to see you next time.